6-4 Rational Exponents, Part 1. By the end of today's lesson, students are going to be able to use rational exponents. A rational exponent is an exponent that is a fraction. If I give you a to the m over n power, you can rewrite that as, and then the bottom number is my index on my radical. The top number stays with the base and goes underneath. That's an m, not a 3. Sorry, guys. Or you could also write it as this. And then do the exponent after you take the root. Either one of those means the same thing. Let's learn how to simplify when we are given rational exponents. So if I give you 64 to the 1/2 power, we're going to use the rule from the other slide to rewrite it. So 64 is my base. The 2 comes out here, and then the 1 stays underneath, okay? So do you ever see this 2 right here? And I hope all of you guys are telling me no, you don't ever see it. So it's just like the square root of 64. And then you also don't have to write this 1 right here because it's an invisible 1. And the square root of 64 is just 8. Our second example has 11 to the 1/2 power times 11 to the 1/2 power. So again, we're going to use our rule. We just learned that we don't have to write the 2 on the outside, and we don't have to write the 1 underneath. So then you multiply square root of 11 and the square root of 11, which is 121, and the square root of 121 is 11. Our third example, we have 3 to the 1/2 power times 12 to the 1/2 power. Same thing, rewrite it as the square root of 3 times the square root of 12. Since they're both square roots, we get to multiply them together. So 3 times 12 gives me the square root of 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. So I know in all of these examples, they were all 1/2, 1/2, and 1/2. They're not always 1/2, but you still treat them the same. In these examples, I just want you to convert from something with an exponent to something with a radical. So it's w to the 3/4 power. So since it's a fraction, I know that I'm going to have a radical. W is my base, and it stays underneath it. Okay, 4 is the bottom number, so 4 is my index on the outside. 3 is my top number, so it stays underneath with my W. And that's how you write it. In example 5, we have x to the -5/8 power. So now we have to use our properties of exponents, and we can never have a negative exponent, so we have to move it to the denominator to make it positive. So we have 1 over w to the 5/8. Okay, now we rewrite it. So that's going to be 1 over, and I know I'm going to have a radical since I have 5/8. W stays underneath. Okay, the number on the bottom is my index, and then the number on the top is my exponent that stays underneath. In example 6, we have a decimal instead of having a fraction. So we have to rewrite the decimal so that it is a fraction. So we take the 1.2, and we know it's going to be a big 1 because it's 1 point. Okay, the decimal goes on the top, and then the 2 is in the tenths position, so we put it over 10. Okay, now let's simplify. 2 goes into 10 5 times, so it makes it, 1/5. All right, now we multiply 5 times 1, and we get 5, and then we add the 1 on the top and we get 6/5. If you were to type 6/5 into your calculator, 6 divided by 5, it should give you 1.2. So now we have z to the 6/5 power. So now I can rewrite it. Z stays underneath. 5 is my index. 6 stays with the z. Now we're going to go the other way, and we're going to take our radical and rewrite it so that it has an exponent. So our first example is the 4th root of y to the 3rd. So that becomes y to the 3/4 power. Remember, your index is always the bottom part of your fraction. Example 8 looks a little different than example 7, but you're still doing the exact same thing. So you're taking the 5th root of z, and then you're raising that to the 4th power. So it does the exact same thing. Z is your base, 4 is the top, 5 is the index, so it's always the denominator. We have the square root of 2x to the 4th power. So now this is still the same thing, it's just a little tricky because if you do not put your 2x in your parentheses, you would get it wrong. 4 is the numerator, and then the index that's right here that you can't see is going to be a 2 since it's a square root.